back at it again, and my goodness. Holy man, I'm not gonna waste too much time. Like, share, comment, and of course, hit that subscribe button if you're new. Make sure you are following me on social media too. And with that being said, goodness gracious, let's just dive right on into this. Let's check it out.
In December of 2018, an Iraq War veteran called Paul Whelan flew to Moscow to attend the wedding of a friend he'd known in the Marine Corps. Days after he arrived, 6 days we think, Whelan was arrested in his room at the Metropole Hotel and charged with spying. Russian authorities claimed Whelan had accepted a flash drive loaded with classified information from an intel agent in Russia. He was put on trial and he was sentenced to 16 years in prison for espionage. From the very beginning, Whelan claimed he was set up. He said he was in Moscow on vacation. At the wedding, he wasn't spying on Russia. Now, we tend to believe him, though honestly we can't know for sure. How could we? But either way, whether he was set up or actually spying on Russia, Paul Whelan's case would be a priority for any American government. Here you have a man who has actively served the United States in the Marine Corps and then possibly as an intel asset in a hostile foreign country. That man is languishing in a Russian prison cell for the rest of his useful life. So not surprisingly, American authorities in Washington promised to do everything possible to bring this man home. But it turns out they didn't mean a word of it. Today, the Biden administration announced it had secured the release of an American imprisoned in Russia, but it was not Paul Whelan. It was a female basketball player called Brittany Griner, who was arrested several months ago for breaking Russian drug laws. In exchange for Griner, the administration handed over an arms dealer called Victor Bout. Now, Bout is an indisputably serious criminal. He sold weapons to terror groups that killed Americans. We're not overstating that. Here's a summary.
Victor Bout, in my eyes, is one of the most dangerous men on the face of the earth.
On the face of the earth.
Without a doubt.
His nickname was literally the Merchant of Death. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know, then I don't know what will. You know, goodness gracious. That's who we released for a basketball player. A basketball player. Yeah.
Mike Braun, the former chief of operations for the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, told us Bout first exploded on the scene in war-torn West Africa in the late 1980s. Elevating bloody conflicts from machetes and single-shot rifles to
AK-47s, not by the thousands, but by the tens of thousands.
So he weaponizes civil war in Africa.
He transformed these young adolescent warriors into insidious, mindless, maniacally driven killing machines that operated with assembly line efficiencies.
The U.S. has indicted him on 4 terror-related charges, including conspiracy to kill Americans. What makes him a threat to the United States?
He's a shadow facilitator. He's arming not only designated terrorist groups, insurgent groups, but he's also arming very powerful drug trafficking cartels around the globe.
Sheesh.
So that's the guy that Joe Biden just sprung from prison, the international arms dealer who's arming terror groups and drug cartels. Now, keep in mind, the same administration that did that is simultaneously calling for the arrest and imprisonment of American citizens who have handgun magazines that hold more than 10 rounds. So by any measure, it was a very costly prisoner swap. Certainly from Paul Whelan's perspective, it was. Earlier today, amazingly, Whelan spoke to a CNN reporter from the penal colony where he's being held south of Moscow. Listen to him.
I would say that if a message could go to President Biden that, this is a precarious situation that needs to be resolved quickly. And I would hope that he and his administration would do everything they could to get me home, regardless of the price they might have to pay at this point. I have to say I'm greatly disappointed that more has not been done to secure my release, especially as the 4-year anniversary of my arrest is coming up. I was arrested for a crime that never occurred. I'm happy that Brittany is going home today and that Trevor went home when he did. But I don't understand why I'm still sitting here. My bags are packed. I'm ready to go home. I just need an airplane to come and get me.
Poor guy. I don't understand why I'm still sitting here, he said. You can imagine how he feels. So the former Marine who's been there for 4 years already.
And what does this say to, our service members or even potential service members? It's a slap in the face. You gonna free a basketball player before somebody who fought for this country? Before somebody who literally signed up to put their life on the line? You're gonna free somebody who legitimately committed a crime. And listen, make no mistake about it. I 100% agree with some of the folks that have been disagreeing with her sentencing. I think that sentencing was harsh. She got 9 years for some marijuana cartridges. I feel like that's a bit intense. But she broke the law. She broke the law. Paul, as far as we know, like Tucker said, committed no crime. Zero. Nothing. It's an accusation. She actually committed a crime. So you freed an actual criminal before you freed someone who isn't a criminal. I don't understand it. Goodness gracious.
Gets left behind in Russia, while the celebrity athlete gets busted with hash oil, is championed by her celebrity media friends like Gayle King, and is home in just months. I mean, that's what happened. And it seems like a metaphor for how America under Joe Biden is working at this point. But no, says Joe Biden, we had no choice but to take Brittany Griner over Paul Whelan. Putin demanded that. Watch Biden.
We never forgot about Brittany. We've not forgotten about Paul Whelan, who's been unjustly detained in Russia for years. This was not a choice of which American to bring home.
This was not a choice of which American to bring home. Really? Oh, but it clearly was a choice.
Joe Biden, I said this in a short yesterday. Joe is literally the worst GM ever. If he was the GM, he's the worst ever. He'd be fired on his first day on the job, right? What Joe did, and I said this, like I said this in a short. What Joe did was the equivalent of trading LeBron James and Anthony Davis from the Los Angeles Lakers to the Boston Celtics for Al Horford. What Joe did was the equivalent of trading Micah Parsons, Trey Diggs, and Dak Prescott from the Dallas Cowboys to, I think he just changed teams. I think he plays for the LA Rams now. Those three guys, Dak Prescott, Michael Parsons, and Trey Diggs, to the LA Rams for Baker Mayfield. What the fuck what kind of trade is that? Oh man. The worst trade ever.
And we know it was a choice because the first accounts of the prisoner swap with Russia said it was a choice. Earlier today, Andrea Mitchell of NBC, this is someone who's been in Washington covering news for more than 50 years, someone who is deeply supportive of the Joe Biden administration, contributed to a story that contained this line, quote, "The Kremlin gave the White House the choice of either Griner or Whelan, or none." So Mitchell's piece attributed this fact to a, quote, senior U.S. official. It was not a guess, it was sourced. And then, as with the early reporting on Paul Pelosi last month, that account was scrubbed and sanitized. And the new version of the NBC story assures us that, quote, "The Kremlin ultimately gave the White House the choice of either Griner or no one." In other words, Joe Biden's version of events is now perfectly in sync with the official NBC News version of events. Of course. Now, we missed this. A writer on Substack called Jordan Schachtel noticed it, and we're glad that he did. This kind of thing happens all the time in Washington, constantly, usually without the public knowing that it happened. So at this point, we can assume the obvious. The Biden administration chose Brittany Griner over Paul Whelan, the basketball player over the Marine facing 16 years. There was only
Joe trying to buy more votes once again. Goodness gracious. And listen, once again, Republicans have to get better at playing the game. This is the Democrats once again playing the game. They had a choice, but they played the game. Now, I'm not saying Republicans should have chosen Brittany Griner over Paul Whelan. No, that's not what I'm saying. I mean, I think that choice is obvious. That choice is obvious. But I mean, just in other aspects of politics, Republicans have to get better at playing the game. You see Democrats all playing it all the time.
Room for one, the lifeboat, and the Marine got left behind. Well, why'd they make that choice? Well, you should know that Whelan is a Trump voter, and he made the mistake of saying so on social media. He's paying the price for that now. Brittany Griner is not. She's got very different politics. Brittany Griner despises the United States. She's been very vocal about that. This country is so repellent and immoral that 2 years ago she said, quote, "I honestly feel we should not play the national anthem during our basketball season." She hates the country so much she doesn't want to hear its anthem. That's the kind of position that gets you rewarded by Joe Biden. Hate America? Perfect. We'll free the guy who sold weapons to drug cartels to get you out early. So there's that. And then there's the matter of identity, which is central to equity. Brittany Griner is not white, and she's a lesbian. Now, those facts might seem irrelevant to you. We hope they do seem irrelevant, because they are. But they're not irrelevant to the White House press secretary. In the view of the White House press secretary, those are essential qualifications for a prisoner swap. Watch.
Became to either bring Brittany home or no one. As the president said this morning, he will never stop working to secure Paul's release and return home, and he will not give up. On a personal note, Brittany is more than an athlete, more than an Olympian. She is an important role model and inspiration to millions of Americans, particularly the LGBTQI.
Role model to whom? A role model for what? What exactly? For being 6'9"? I'm sorry. I don't think you can encourage people to grow to 6'9". Like, you just either do it or you don't. Like, there's just not something, hey, I encourage you to grow to 6'9".
Plus Americans and women of color. She should never have been detained by Russia.
So there's Joe Biden's press secretary telling you that Brittany Griner is important because she's a lesbian woman of color. And by the way, so am I. That's what she said. Now, how perverse is that? You hear that kind of stuff all the time, but how perverse is it? Well, imagine a press secretary from the last administration, say Sean Spicer, pausing in the middle of a briefing to tell you that, quote, on a personal note, it is thrilling when a straight white man gets out of prison. What would you think of that? You'd probably see that as an offense against the idea of the rule of law, against the idea of a country where we're all treated equally because we're all citizens. But liberals don't see it that way because they don't believe in abstract principles. So they're 100% behind that idea. Here's Van Jones on CNN.
It just shows this president got it done. He cared enough about this individual person to get her home. It was shocking I think for young Americans to see an icon like that snatched, locked up. What you don't have and what you can't allow to happen.
An icon. Icon to who? People are like acting like she's this big celebrity when all of these folks, every single last one of them that are sitting right there, probably didn't even know who she was before all this stuff went down. And I guarantee you, they never attended a WNBA game. And if I would have asked them before she was arrested, oh, what team does she play for? What are you talking about? That would have been the response. What are you talking about? Huh? Get out of here with this BS.
To have a black female icon treated like garbage and America do nothing about it. Something was done about it and people are going to be proud about that.
Oh, so it's not that you can't have an American mistreated by a foreign government. You can't have a black female icon mistreated by a foreign government. See that? You get more rights based on what color you are, what sexual orientation you are. But that's not how this country works, or has ever worked, or should ever work. That's immoral.
Oh, man. I don't even know what else to say other than how disgusted I am. Joe's literally the worst GM ever known to man. The worst, by far. Shout out to all of our servicemen and women. You know, there is a good number of us that greatly appreciate you all. I know Joe doesn't. and it's sad to see. It really is. Really is sad to see how they try to twist things, and I'm tired of seeing it, and this is why I push so hard. I continually say, Republicans play the game, play the game, play the game. And I know some of you are probably getting tired of me saying that, but I'm so tired of seeing the dishonesty from the left. I'm so tired of it. It's disgusting. And I know the only way that Republicans can win is if we play the game. That's the only way to win at this point. The left has twisted things so far that that's the only way to win. We can't win just, oh yeah, whatever. No, we're not gonna play. You can't win that way. We saw that. We've seen it already. But I do think if we play the game, not to the level that they played it, like I wouldn't have ever done what they did to Paul Whelan in that situation. Brittany Griner would still be over there. No, we're bringing back the Marine. We are bringing back the Marine. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And of course, you have to. Unfortunately, in today's time, until we fix the schooling system so people aren't so soft, you probably would have had to come out, do a little press conference, talking about his achievements and this sort of thing, and how he's a military veteran and how he was completely innocent, blah blah blah. Brittany actually committed a crime, and then say something nice, Oh yeah, we'll continue to work to bring her back. Play the game, because the left says a bunch of things that they don't really mean. They just say it because people buy it. But the thing about this, and I've said this too, you play the game to win, and once you win, you make sure the game never has to be played again. But you have to win first, because I don't want this to go on forever. But you got to adapt to the environment sometimes, and that's the environment we're in. Absolutely disgusting. I mean, we freed the merchant of death. When he does his thing, people get put in pine boxes. When Brittany Griner does hers, a ball gets put in the rim. Let that sink in. I'm out.